Imagine it's 2005. Tell a football fan the greatest player of the coming decades will barely stand 5 feet 7 inches tall. They'd probably laugh. For decades, the sport operated on a strict physical formula. To reach the absolute pinnacle, an athlete needed to maximize 3 variables: height, speed, and raw strength. By the early 2000s, the game heavily prioritized muscle. Looking at physical clashes in matches like this between Bayern Munich and Chelsea, analysts concluded the sport's future belonged to heavy, powerful athletes. The ideal prospect was strictly defined as an overwhelming specimen. If a player couldn't win a shoulder-to-shoulder battle or outjump a towering defender, they were deemed a liability. Then, a small teenager from the dense urban grid of Rosario arrived at Barcelona's academy. He lacked the intimidation factor entirely, but he possessed an entirely different variable. His dribbling control looked almost unnatural, keeping the ball tethered to his foot with an impossibly short stride. Opposing defenders faced a problem. They could watch his body language and anticipate exactly where he intended to move. Yet their size and muscle proved useless in actually stopping him. His ability to glide through heavy tackles proved that spatial awareness and elite ball control could dismantle a defensive system built on brute force. A player who bypassed physical norms presented a structural challenge for his managers. They had to figure out where to place a forward who lacked the size to play as a traditional attacking target. In 2009, manager Pep Guardiola made a confusing and highly irregular decision. He removed the traditional center forward entirely and placed his shortest player directly in the middle of the attack. Look at this tactical setup. A traditional striker pins high against central defenders, but dropping into midfield springs a trap. If defenders push up, they leave a vulnerable vacuum behind them. If they hold their line, the attacker sits isolated, receiving the ball uncontested. This concept, known as the false nine, created an unsolvable geometry problem. Managers across Europe were forced to reorganize marked space and abandon decades of defensive tradition. While the attacking shapes received the majority of the praise, the team's behavior without the ball was arguably more devastating. Upon losing possession, they never retreated. Look at this pressing model. The team instituted a strict 6-second rule. The moment possession was lost, multiple players immediately swarmed the opponent to win it back within that short window. By hunting the ball in packs high up the pitch, they suffocated the opposition. Defending teams were denied the crucial seconds needed to look up, breathe, or organize a counterattack. Today, you can see this identical aggressive structure utilized by Liverpool, Manchester City, and Bayern Munich. It is the required baseline for elite competition. The intense, high-speed nature of the modern sport is a direct acceleration from the tactical blueprint of those specific Barcelona squads. As top-flight tactics adapted, the underlying youth system followed suit. In previous decades, academy scouts routinely favored tall, heavily built teenagers over their smaller peers. Watching a player of his stature dominate elite competition forced a widespread tactical pivot. When evaluating young players on pitches like these, coaches began actively selecting for sharp decision-making, field vision, and close ball control over sheer size. This shift in scouting priorities opened doors for players who, in a previous era, might have been deemed too small for the professional game. As these new criteria spread, physical growth charts became less important than a player's ability to manipulate the ball in tight spaces. By proving that intelligence and technique could outplay muscle, the global scouting ecosystem changed its focus, altering the profile of athletes on the pitch today. This tactical dominance occurred alongside a rapid surge in global broadcasting. Millions tuned in purely to watch his decade-long rivalry with Cristiano Ronaldo, turning weekend league matches into worldwide events. The result was an immense collection of club trophies and individual awards, setting scoring records that mathematically outpaced previous generations. Yet a persistent criticism followed his entire career. Pundits argued that to truly cement his status at the absolute pinnacle of the sport, he was required to lead his national team to a World Cup victory. This expectation built an agonizing level of pressure. Over 10 years, every international defeat generated highly critical headlines, amplifying the voices of his detractors. He found himself in a strange paradox. He had rebuilt the tactical structures of the sport globally, Yet the public demanded he validate that influence by lifting one specific piece of gold. The tournament in Qatar during the winter of 2022 served as the definitive final chapter to address those remaining critics. When Argentina finally won the final and he kissed the trophy, the lingering decade-long debate regarding his ultimate standing was definitively closed. That victory offered closure to the millions of fans wearing his number across the globe, completing a narrative arc that spanned nearly 2 decades. His highest impact is not found in his trophy cabinet. He forced the most successful managers in the world to invent new tactical systems just to maximize his output, and he changed how the next generation of players are scouted and trained. Future generations will eventually break his scoring records, but his true legacy remains visible in the tactical blueprints and scouting criteria that now define the modern sport. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe to Goal Reactor for more deep dives into football history and the events that shifted the game.